Hi, and welcome to the Revive, Thrive, and Optimize podcast. I'm Billy Weiss, compounding pharmacist and health and wellness expert. As always, behind the scenes, producer Mike and my co-host Janet. Hello, everybody.
Good morning, Billy. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, everybody. Woo, I woke up this morning with a little bit of feeling allergies and the seasonal, maybe allergies, seasonal cold and flu, maybe. And, I'd love to talk about what do you do when people come to you and say, I have a cold. What do I do for a cold? Or what do I do for allergies? How do we keep our immune system strong in the winter months?
Yeah, very common questions, all of those. One of the easy answers is if they have like allergy type symptoms or cold symptoms where there's runny nose, scratchy throat, cough, watery eyes. I have a product called Seasonal Essentials that is 5 natural antihistamines that is absolutely amazing for that. And we do a loading dose. We do a loading dose for adults of 4 capsules 4 times a day for usually just a day or two. And people will tell you that it really dries up those eyes, nose running, cough symptoms. Because the cough is most commonly caused by the sinuses draining back into the throat. So Seasonal Essentials is an easy symptom reliever, and at the same time, it has some ingredients in it that help build our immune system, which the real answer, the long-term answer, is to keep our immune system, the way I describe it, is like a rock so that nothing can penetrate it. And the number one way I believe that we do that is to start with the foundational 4, which is the OptiU Multi, the OptiU Mag, the OptiU Digestive, and the OptiU Probiotic, because 80% of our immune system is found in our gut. And 2 of those 4 are all about our gut, right? The probiotic and the enzyme. So we want to, number 1, make sure that we have really good gut health. And number 2, with the multi and the magnesium, we want to make sure we're covering the basics. Then we would go to something like our vitamin D with Super K. Vitamin D plays a critical role in our immune system function. And so it plays a critical role in activating what are called natural killer cells. And natural killer cells are our body's white blood cells, our body's immune system, that will go around and attack or eat or get rid of viruses, parasites, bacteria. So those natural killer cells are critical for our body to be able to, if one invades us, and they're all over, right? Especially this time of year, we're here in winter.
Right.
So we want to be able to attack them with our natural killer cells, have a good healthy gut, and then we use things like our Super Zinc, our Super C with flavonoids. We have a product called Viracid, VIRACID, which is a natural combination of antiviral product. So it really works well if you can get started, especially early on when you feel a cold or a virus of some kind coming on.
I think I bought out all your Viracid last year.
Yeah, I know.
And I even gave it out to friends.
It
works.
We really had trouble keeping it during the viral outbreak for sure, because so many people we had a immune protocol, we called it.
Right.
And it was our multi, our magnesium, our vitamin D, our zinc, our vitamin C, and Viracid.
So the Viracid, VIRICID.
R-A.
VIRACID.
Right.
It's just a little packet. And I remember that you take 1 every 6 hours.
2.
You take 2 every 6 hours. It's like you stack and you load it.
You take 2 every 6 hours for 6 hours. So there's 12 capsules. So the idea is when you take those 2, you knock the virus down. And after an hour, the virus is starting to replicate again. So viruses replicate very quickly, which is why they're hard to just control. And so then for 6 straight hours, we're banging him every hour. We're banging him. We're trying to knock it down, knock it down, knock it down, knock it down.
Well, it works. And everybody write that down, Viracid, because if you get that like day 1 of feeling that bad cold or flu or whatever, it helps to knock it out. And I know from experience, and I've given it to so many people, and it works. And along with adding more C and zinc and D, but going back to the vitamin D, what should our vitamin D levels look like?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Janet. And what we want is between 60 nanograms and 100 nanograms.
And won't that say too high on your blood
No,
labs?
not necessarily, but the doctor may think that it's too high. They may tell you that it's too high, but most labs now honestly go from 22 to 100
Oh, good. Okay.
nanograms per deciliter. So
Get that vitamin D
it
up.
won't necessarily show flag high, but I often see that people will say, well, my provider told me to back off when they're at 60 or 70. So we want them to be at least 60 to 80. 60 to 100 is even better in my mind. I keep mine above 90.
Yeah.
And so as long as we're protecting our vitamin D with the right K, which is what my vitamin D with Super K product is, there's no danger even if it gets above 100.
Okay.
And well above 100.
Okay, that's good.
Because the vitamin K protects us from the potential, and I say potential, very small potential, that the vitamin D could pull calcium out of our bones if it got too high. But the vitamin K pushes the vitamin D back. The calcium back, excuse me. So even with levels of 120, 140, 160, 180, I'm not concerned.
Have you
if I
seen
have the
that?
vitamin
Levels
K.
that high?
No, not typically, but I'm just saying we wouldn't be concerned.
So I'm shooting for around 90 for my
You want to
vitamin
shoot
D.
for, I would say 80 to 90
Okay.
is a great range to shoot for.
Mine was 86 last time.
And remember, we're not only reducing the risk of colds, flus, heart disease, all those things and more, but we're reducing the risk of cancer tremendously with optimal vitamin D level. And I know it's not a cancer class, but my point is, or cancer discussion, my point is vitamin D plays a critical role in our immune system. And remember those natural killer, those NK cells, they are responsible again for going around if there's a rogue cell, a cancer type cell, and taking that cell out. So vitamin D levels play a critical role in the reduction of 26 different cancers, including breast cancer, prostate cancer. So very critical, not only for these colds and flu things, but for the more damaging, I guess I should say, the more critical kind of things, such as heart disease and cancer.
Wow, that's great to know. So, if you went back on every podcast that we've done, the two big things that stick out for me are magnesium. Everybody needs magnesium, and everybody needs to get their vitamin D levels up. As a child, I was really sick with asthma, and I took asthma medication every day. I also had an inhaler that I carried with me for years and years and years. And then I had that weekly allergy shot where my dad had to chase me around the house and give me my shot. And so I've always struggled with allergies and asthma. It's gotten better as I've gotten older, but also since 2015-16 when I started your program, I hadn't had any asthma at all. I've hardly had any allergies, but a couple of times that I have had the allergies, and I feel like I'm getting them right now. It's that season, right? But last year I did the seasonal essentials.
Yes.
And stacked it like you said, and I don't remember after a day or two having any more at all.
Well, Janet, that's the
worked.
crazy thing about the seasonal essentials. For most people, if they will do that loading dose, after one dose, some of them go, good gracious, I'm better.
And it's kind of a pain to have to remember to do something 4 or 5 times a day.
It is.
But it works.
But just set a reminder. I mean, you have a phone now.
Yeah.
We'll
Set
alert
an
you.
alarm.
Right, just set an alarm. And that's what we do with Viracid. We tell people, take one now, set a 1 hour timer. Take 2 now, set a 1 hour timer. You can do the same thing with your seasonals. And seasonal essentials is amazing because it not only helps dry up those symptoms, but it really helps relieve the phlegm. So one of the things during this latest viral outbreak was people were getting, lung issues. And so one of the 5 natural antihistamines in my seasonal essentials is N-acetylcysteine, or also known as NAC. Now, during the viral outbreak, the FDA actually said that NAC was so effective at getting rid of the congestion out of the lungs that they really made it almost unavailable over the counter because they were talking about making it a prescription drug.
Wow.
So that kind of has went away now. But there for a while, we were having real trouble getting the seasonal essentials because our supplier, our manufacturer, couldn't get the N-acetylcysteine because of the FDA kind of, I don't know if it was an official stance or just like an unofficial thing, that NAC was working so well that maybe we need to, unfortunately, take it away out of the people's hands.
No, maybe what we need to do is get in there and buy out all the seasonal essentials and get them now. Get ready.
And we actually were able to continue to make the product, but there for a while it was in really short supply. But seasonal essentials does work good. But I want to come back to something. You really triggered me on something. You said out of all these podcasts, you think of two things that keep coming up over and over and over and over. And you said magnesium and vitamin D. And it made me remember that if you are deficient in magnesium, which 80% of Americans, according to the studies, are, it takes double the vitamin D it takes double taking in the amount of vitamin D to get your levels to the same level as somebody with optimal magnesium.
Really?
So magnesium plays a critical role not only in 350 positive functions in the body, but also in the level that our vitamin D will get to when we're taking the vitamin D with Super K. So think about it. If I'm at a 90 and I know I have optimal magnesium, if I didn't have optimal magnesium, I would take the same amount of vitamin D, according to the study, and be somewhere around 45.
Wow, so it cut it in half.
Think about that.
Yeah.
So, I have people come in a lot and they say, well, I'm taking vitamin D, but I can't get my vitamin D level up. Well, the first thing and the most important thing is they're probably on a vitamin D from a big chain store, and it's not vitamin D, and it's in soybean oil, and it's not going to work.
And they're not taking it with food.
And they're probably not taking it with fat. Not only food, but we want them to have a little bit of fat in that food because vitamin D is fat soluble.
So that will help it to absorb.
Correct. And they may be on something like an omeprazole or a Prilosec or a Prevacid, which blocks their body from absorbing the vitamin D very well because now we've cut off the stomach acid. And so there's all these different issues, and then they're magnesium deficient, and then they can't get their vitamin D levels up. So
it's a symphony. Again, you have to have it all working together in a big symphony.
Well, that's why, again, we have the foundational four. We're going to cover those most common deficiencies and those most common things that we find in the studies over and over and over in 35 years of doing this.
I think what a lot of us do is we wait till we get sick, and then we're like, oh no, I need to go get vitamin D. But you've got to keep those levels up consistently. You
really do, Janet. And
do it year round.
And the beauty of it is honestly for you say you feel like you have a little something coming on. I would venture to guess that when we meet 2 days from now, Tuesday, that it'll be gone. Because I know you'll get on the seasonal essentials, you'll up your D, you'll up your C, you'll up your zinc. It'll be gone. And even better than that is the way that I approach it is that I just can't get it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be able to get it. I want my immune system to be where I can't get it. But if I do, it's just going to be a very short-term, easy turnaround. And one of the things that we need to talk about, I think is important, and this will be something I'll probably get a bunch of comments on and get yelled at, and that's okay, because the truth is where we are. So when we are attacked, our bodies are attacked with a bacteria or especially a virus, we will often spike a fever, right? And most people will think for them or their children, the first thing they should do is Tylenol or ibuprofen to suppress the fever.
No.
And I think that is the wrong approach, because the fever, the raising of the core temperature of our body, is actually our body's signal to turn the wick up, to turn the immune system up. And so that activates the natural killer cells and the other white blood cells that start to fight the bacteria and the virus. So
now how high do you want that fever to get? Or where do you start to worry about that?
Janet, this will be really, really
controversial.
Really controversial.
No.
I think that you can have as adults and children, you can have much higher fevers than we've been led to believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was in Mexico at a cancer clinic, they would actually induce fevers in people and in adults in much higher levels than we would say is safe here. And I never saw any issues, and they didn't either. And they did it on purpose. They used what was called a Coley's vaccine, which is a vaccine they made, and it's not a vaccine like you think of a vaccine today, but it was a natural thing from your own blood, and I'm not sure how they did it, but they would draw the person's own blood, and they would do their thing to it. They would re-inject it, and it would create an immune response, and it would spike a fever, and they wanted to spike the fever on purpose. And they did that because they knew the higher the fever went, and the more often these people got a fever, that the better their chances of overcoming their cancers were.
Wow.
So I believe that the number is, probably higher than we're told for adults and children, but I know why people get concerned. And I understand that people don't feel good when they have a fever, and your kids don't feel good. But I always remember Granny, my grandmother, telling me and telling people to sweat out a cold. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you, if some of the people listening will think back to their grandmother or their great-grandmother or somebody, they would say, sweat out a cold, sweat out a cold. Eat the chicken soup, put 5 blankets on and cover up and sweat it out. And I don't think they had the science. I just think they knew that it worked. They had just observed that if you sweat it out, that you would get better quicker. And so I'm not a fan of suppressing the fevers. I'm not a fan of that because I think that's my body's way to turn on the immune system. As a matter of fact, if I feel those things coming on, Janet, I want to spike my core temperature with an infrared sauna, with a really hard workout, with one of those hot baths that we've talked about, with a hot shower. Now, you can't just get your external temperature up. You need to get your core temperature up. So it takes 15 or 20 minutes. It can't happen, 5 minutes in a hot shower. That's not what we're talking about.
We have talked about this in the hot yoga community for
many
years. So in 1998, from 1998 till recently, I looked back and I had not had the flu. Every year, everybody's getting the flu. I never got the flu. Well, since 1998, I was inside of a hot room sweating for at least 90 minutes.
Yep.
And then we would laugh at each other because we had a deal that, don't call in sick if you don't want to come teach hot yoga. Get in there early and just start sweating. And every single time that I would feel any kind of cold or flu or any type of sickness at all coming on, I knew if I could get myself inside the hot room under the infrared heaters and sweat and sweat and sweat, that I would feel bad for about an hour, and then boom.
Yep.
It's like it would just sweat it out of my body. That's kind of what's happening.
It's turning your immune system on so that your natural killer cells can go do their thing. It's the alert siren.
I do that now. I'll go get in my hot sauna if I'm feeling bad, and I think it's going to make me feel worse at first, but how long the symptoms last, it just cuts it right in half.
Well, the irony of the suppressing the fever too is the way that we do it. I often tell moms, if they're concerned with their kids' fever, is to put them in a cool bath of water, because Tylenol, acetaminophen.
Are you talking about to bring the fever down if they're worried that it's too high?
To hold the fever, or to bring the fever down, rather than give them a drug like acetaminophen, because acetaminophen actually requires glutathione, which is our master antioxidant from our liver, in order to be metabolized out of the body. Otherwise, it's toxic to our liver, which is why Tylenol has a warning of hepatotoxicity or liver toxicity. So glutathione has to be used up to transform, or to metabolize is probably the right word, the acetaminophen into something that we can then excrete through the urine. And glutathione is our master antioxidant. So it's out there fighting against these viruses and parasites and bacteria. And now if we take Tylenol, we're starting to lower our glutathione level.
We don't want to do that. Okay.
And so now we have more trouble fighting off whatever's going on. So I just, again, and then the ibuprofen, it's hard on the gut, right? So it's hard on the gut lining. Where's 80% of our immune system found? In the gut. So if we can minimize the use of these things, let our natural immune system run its fever and do its thing, I just think we're going to get over it quicker rather than delaying it. So that's what I have
great
observed.
Advice.
That's what I've done with our kids. That's the approach that we take.
And obviously, in addition to drinking good water, taking the supplements, sweating, keeping your magnesium and vitamin D levels up, all of that, that's just gonna, try it this season. It's gonna make a huge difference.
Well, that, Janet, and trying to
and eat right. Sorry, that's the last thing I was getting ready to get coming around to, and eating right.
You have to cut out the processed foods. You have to cut out
the
sugars, the seed oils, because these bacteria, these viruses, these parasites, even cancers, they feed on seed oils and they feed on sugar and sugar responders. And so when we're constantly bombarding our body with all these chemicals, and we could do, I don't know how many shows we could do on processed foods and the poisons, the literal poisons that are found in them, the atrazine, the glyphosate, the colors and the flavors and the MSGs and the things that are really toxic to our bodies.
And the things that we ate growing up as a child, they're not the same today.
No, they're not.
People are like, well, I've been eating that my whole life. Well, it's a completely different.
Well, yeah, everything, not everything. Most things have certainly changed. The way that if you look at the ingredients in processed foods here versus in Europe, they're completely different because they don't allow a lot of the toxins that we allow.
Well, I was looking at ingredients and things like, what does a McDonald's burger have in it today versus what it used to have in it? And it's got double or triple the amount of ingredients now.
Yeah.
And I know it's funny because Billy brings in a McDonald's cheeseburger that
Big Mac.
Big Mac. And how long have you been carrying it around?
91 or something like that.
So for many years, for 20 years, and it looks exactly the same. The box is kind of torn up, but the burger and the bread look the same.
It never molded or went bad, and I think it's just all the preservatives. But yeah, it's crazy how we expect our immune system to work and work efficiently if we're not giving it the nutrients that it needs through the right supplements. And then if we're bombarding it with all these chemicals and these toxins and these sugars and these seed oils, it just makes it really hard. And
then we run to the store to get Mucinex and allergy meds, and then we're suppressing our fever, and then we're drinking all this sugar and stuff that's messing up our gut.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know what to do, and that's, again, Janet, why education is so important.
I was going to say, it's really not hard to know what to do if you just educate yourself and be the CEO of your own health.
So get in there and take your class.
Just taking, the summit comes up January I think 4th and 5th. Which is just a month away.
Yeah.
So, but they can watch things like this and learn, right? Take your Foundational 4, take your vitamin D with Super K, have a Seasonal Essentials on hand when you need them, have Viracid on hand when you need it, have extra Super C with flavonoids, have extra Super Zinc. There's so many things that you can do. I probably have talked about this on here before, but 2 of my 3 kids were gymnasts, and they were in a gym with several hundred kids between gymnastics and cheerleading. And there would be 3 or 4 times a year that there would be a stomach virus that would run through that gym. And almost without fail, every single kid would be out a couple days.
Wait, except your kids?
My kids, I really and truly, Janet, I'm being as serious as I can. I cannot remember my kids ever getting it. They would go every day. They never picked up those viruses, bugs, and things.
They had the strong natural killer cells.
They just,
strong vitamin D
now
levels.
Understand, in fairness, they were taking all their supplements. They were using their protein. They were using our OptiU protein. We took their lunch to them every single day because they were doing full-time homeschooled. Mm-hmm. Most of those kids were eating McDonald's, Bojangles, worse than that sometimes, and not that it's easy to get worse than that, but our kids were eating what we had the night before.
Yeah.
So we would heat it up and take it to them. It's a pain for us. for Beth and I, but that's the way we did it, so that they were not only getting good nutrients, but then they weren't taking in all the junk. They were never drinking all the soft drinks and sodas and juices and things that everybody else was drinking either.
Now, do kids get leaky gut, or is that something that happens later on?
Kids definitely get leaky gut, Janet. They're probably more prone to it now than ever, because think of all the cereals and things are full of grains. They're full of the gluten. They're full of the glyphosate. You know, the quote that we're told, the healthy, enriched, fortified morning breakfast things. And then they're washing it down with, a soft drink or juice. It's really tragic. You know, childhood diabetes has gone up over 1,000%. The obesity, overweight rate of kids. As a matter of fact,
ADD, ADHD. Talk about how much that's gone up.
Autism has gone, crazy. I think it's 1 in 36 kids now. So Beth she went as a chaperone for our our children's department at the church a few weeks ago to look up Lodge. And
what age kids?
Well, this would be like, grade school and above, up to maybe junior high, before they get into youth, whatever ages those are. I should know that.
Elementary school.
Since I teach the youth, but I don't know. But yeah, elementary school and above. And she said not one of them. She said absolutely not one of those kids from our church was not overweight with a big belly. And she said it's really scary. And she was, I don't know, maybe
it's become the
20
norm.
or 25 children. And they're just, and it's just normal. Okay, it's normal. That's the sad part.
I think everyone needs to really tune in to our next podcast, because I think it should be about what do we eat. Maybe parents don't know what to give their kids, or even themselves, or what to keep in your refrigerator and in your pantry to really help you have the right tools to keep that immune system strong. So we need to talk about food. All right,
so let's do that. So we'll talk about food and the immune system. And just as a quick reminder as we finish up here, the Foundational 4, the OptiU Foundational 4, Super C, Vitamin D with Super K, Super Zinc, Viracid, Seasonal Essentials.
Got it.
I mean, it's not really all that difficult, Janet. It's not. And if you get a fever, in my opinion, this is Billy's opinion, and it's based on the studies, let it go. Just let it be. Let it run its course.
Okay.
Okay?
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I feel better already.
Good.